Christmas morning should have been warm, filled with joy. The smell of pine and cinnamon, the sound of wrapping paper tearing, and children's laughter. But in my parents' house, it was never about family. It was about power. I was 25, standing in the corner of their living room with my two kids, Hannah, age 7, and Michael, age 5, watching wide-eyed as my parents showered gifts on my younger sister, Lindsay. She sat at the center of the tree like a queen, gold ribbons in her hair, tearing open box after box, shoes, perfume, a diamond bracelet, while my parents clapped and beamed as though she had cured cancer. My kids shuffled closer to me, their eyes drifting to the empty space in front of them. No brightly wrapped boxes, no stockings, nothing. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. Mom, Hannah whispered, tugging my sleeve. Did Santa forget us? My throat closed, but before I could answer, Dad barked across the room. Santa doesn't waste gifts on parasites. Kids like you need to learn early. You don't deserve anything. Lindsay laughed, dangling her bracelet in the light. Guess Santa knows who matters. I clenched my fists, but I stayed quiet. I had learned long ago that speaking up only made things worse. Then Mom stood, a strange smile twisting across her face. She held something behind her back. We do have one gift, she said, her voice dripping with venom. She revealed it with a flourish, a thick leather dog collar, the kind you'd see on a chained mutt in a junkyard. My stomach dropped. What is that? Dad stood too, eyes gleaming. It's perfect for you. Before I could move, he strode across the room, yanked me by the hair, and shoved me to my knees. Hannah screamed. Michael tried to run forward, but Lindsay blocked him, laughing. No, let them watch. Mom slipped the collar around my neck, buckling it tight, while Dad gripped the back, forcing me forward. Finally, Mom said loudly, looking right at my children. She looks like what she is. The room erupted in cruel laughter. Mom clapping, Dad roaring, Lindsay filming on her phone, my children crying in horror. Hannah sobbed. Stop! Leave my mommy alone! Michael screamed. Take it off her! But my parents only laughed harder. Dad yanked the collar like a leash, dragging me a few inches across the carpet. On your knees where you belong. Merry Christmas, trash. The heat of humiliation burned tomb deep. It felt like fire beneath my skin. The collar cut into my throat, the tears blurred my vision, and all I could hear was my kids' terrified sobs. I stayed still, my knees digging into the carpet, my body trembling, till Dad finally let go and tossed the collar aside. Go on, he sneered. Clean up the wrapping paper like a good mutt. They turned back to their wine and gifts as though nothing had happened. Lindsay slipped her bracelet on and grinned. Best Christmas ever. I crawled to my children, pulling them close, holding them tight while they cried into my chest. My body shook, but not from fear anymore, from fury. I kissed the tops of their heads, whispering so only they could hear. It's okay. Mommy's here, and I promise you, this will be the last time they laugh. Because in that moment, something inside me changed. They thought the collar was the end of me, proof of their power, but all they had done was hand me the rope I'd used to strangle their pride. Christmas was supposed to be their triumph. Instead, it became the day I decided their reign of cruelty would end. The days after that Christmas felt like living in the shadow of a fire I couldn't put out. My neck was still raw where the collar had dug into my skin. But it wasn't the skin that hurt most. It was the memory of Hannah's terrified sobs and Michael's screams echoing in my ears. I couldn't stop replaying it. Mom buckling that collar like it was some hilarious game. Dad yanking me across the carpet like a chained dog. Lindsay cackling while my children begged them to stop. My parents had always treated me like I was worthless. But now, they had humiliated me in front of the two people who mattered most. They hadn't just degraded me. They had tried to show my kids that I wasn't human, that I was beneath them. For the first 2 nights, I cried silently while my kids slept in my arms. Hannah whimpered in her dreams, clutching my shirt, whispering, "Don't let them hurt you again." Michael woke up once, screaming, "Grandpa's mean." before burying his face into my side. They were too young to understand the depths of my parents' cruelty, but they understood enough. Their grandparents wanted to break their mother, and something inside me hardened into stone. I couldn't allow my kids to grow up believing that kind of abuse was normal. I couldn't allow them to see me crawling on my knees ever again. That collar had humiliated me, but it had also given me clarity. Revenge wasn't just about me anymore. It was about showing my children that no one could laugh at their mother and walk away untouched. The problem was, my parents and Lindsay weren't stupid when it came to appearances. They always hid their cruelty from outsiders, putting on a mask of respectability. To the neighbors, they were the generous family who hosted holiday parties. To the church, they were model parents who sacrificed everything for their daughters. But masks only hold if no one looks behind them, and I knew exactly what they valued most. Their image, their pride, their little kingdom of fake admiration. So I started small, quietly, like setting traps in the dark. First, I took note of their weaknesses. Dad's obsession was control. He needed to dominate every room, every conversation. Mom's pride lived in her perfect home, her spotless parties, her reputation as the matriarch everyone envied. And Lindsay, her weakness was attention. She lived for the spotlight, flaunting whatever she could. Bracelets, shoes, men, anything that made her shine brighter. I knew I couldn't just scream truth. If I did, they'd twist it, call me unstable, make me look bitter. They'd say, she's jealous of her sister, or she exaggerates. No, I needed something undeniable, something that would strike them where it hurt most, in front of the very people whose respect they craved. I began preparing. Every time my parents insulted me or sneered at my children, I smiled thinly and filed it away. Every cruel word etched itself into my memory. I didn't shout back anymore. I didn't beg. I didn't even cry in front of them. I gave them silence, because silence scared them more than screams. Lindsay noticed it first. One evening when she dangled her bracelet in front of me and said, "You'll never own something this beautiful." But I just stared back at her, calm and unflinching. For the first time, her smirk faltered. "What's wrong with you? Why aren't you crying?" she snapped. I said nothing, just smiled, then turned back to Hannah and Michael. That silence unnerved them. My parents began pushing harder, trying to get a reaction, but I didn't give them one. Instead, I watched. I planned. I waited. Then came Mom's announcement. She was hosting the New Year's banquet, the event where the whole neighborhood gathered at their house to toast and show off. It was their biggest night of the year, the one where their image mattered most. I knew instantly that would be my stage. They had used Christmas to humiliate me. I would use New Year's to bury them. Not with recordings, not with quiet shame, something fresh, something they wouldn't expect. I spent the days leading up to it, working in silence, pretending to clean, cooking when ordered, playing the obedient daughter they thought I still was. But inside, every step, every chore was part of my plan. I laid out every detail in my head, how to turn their pride into a leash around their own necks. And I promised myself as I tucked Hannah and Michael into bed on New Year's Eve, by tomorrow, they'll never laugh at me again. They'll never laugh in front of my kids again. They'll finally see what humiliation feels like when it's burned into their bones. The collar had been their weapon, but the next time it would be mine. The night of the New Year's banquet arrived, and my parents' house was dressed like a palace. Strings of gold light draped over the porch. Crystal bowls of fruit and wine gleamed on every table, and Lindsay stood in the center of it all like a queen in her sparkling red dress, soaking up compliments from neighbors. Mom fluttered around, making sure every guest had a drink in hand, her laugh, sharp and loud, practiced for effect. Dad prowled like a king, barking greetings, shaking hands too hard, bragging about his job and his perfect family. To everyone there, they looked flawless. To me, they looked like predators, waiting for a chance to pounce. I entered quietly with Hannah and Michael. They clung to me, nervous, their little eyes wide. Mom's smile flickered when she saw me, but quickly turned into a sneer. She leaned in and whispered through clenched teeth, "Stay out of sight. Don't ruin this night like you ruin everything else." I smiled back sweetly. "Don't worry, Mom. Tonight isn't mine to ruin, it's yours." She froze, but I moved past her before she could respond. The banquet rolled on. Dad eventually clapped his hands, demanding attention. "Everyone!" he boomed, his voice echoing across the room. "Tonight we toast to family, to our pride, Jessica." He threw an arm around Lindsay, raising his glass. Guests clapped politely, glasses clinking, smiles spreading. It was the same show as always, but not for long. I slipped into the kitchen where Mom had laid out the silver serving trays. On top were the dishes she planned to parade in front of everyone, proof of her perfection. I calmly replaced the lids on 3 of them with the ones I had prepared earlier that day, items they themselves had used to humiliate me. The first tray, a torn, dirt-stained sweater I'd been forced to wear as a teenager, while Lindsay got new clothes at every year. The second tray, the rusted mop I'd been told to use at Christmas instead of sitting at the table. In the third tray, at the very center of the feast, was the leather dog collar they had buckled around my neck in front of my kids, polished so it gleamed under the lights. I carried the trays out myself, setting them in the middle of the long dining table. "Mom, Dad," I said sweetly, "I thought your guests should see what family means to you." Mom's face went pale. Dad's glass froze in his hand. Guests leaned forward, curious. "Go on," I urged. "Show them." Mom hesitated, her hands trembling as she lifted the first lid. Instead of roasted meat, there was the ragged sweater, limp and filthy, still smelling faintly of mildew. Gasps echoed. Whispers filled the room. "What is that? Why is that on the table?" Dad barked. "This isn't funny. Take it away." But I held his gaze. "Not yet. There's more." He yanked the second lid off himself. The mop clattered out, wet and stained, strings limp across the white tablecloth. Laughter erupted, uneasy at first, then louder as guests realized this was no accident. "Is that a mop?" someone said, snickering. Mom's face flushed crimson. She grabbed the last lid in a panic, desperate to end it. But when she lifted it, silence crashed down. The collar gleamed under the chandelier, coiled like a snake, undeniable in its meaning. For a moment, no one moved. Then, Hannah's small voice broke the silence. "That's the collar they put on Mommy." Every head turned. My kids clung to me, but their voices were steady, Michael added. Grandma said Mommy finally looked like what she was. The room exploded. Gasps, outrage, whispers sharp as knives. Mom's bridge club friends backed away from her, eyes wide with disgust. Dad's boss muttered, "Monsters!" before setting down his drink and walking out. Neighbors whispered, "How could they?" Phones came out, screens glowing, recording every second. Mom tried to scream over it. "She's lying. She planted it." But her voice cracked, desperate. Dad slammed his fist on the table, shouting, "This is a trick! She made this up!" But no one believed them anymore. Not with the evidence in front of them. Not with my children's voices trembling in the air. The laughter my parents craved turned against them. Neighbors sneered. Old friends turned their backs. And Lindsay's fake smile collapsed as people whispered about her family, being cruel, disgusting, heartless. I stood tall, my kids' hands in mine. I didn't scream, I didn't cry, I didn't need to. They had put a collar on me to make me crawl. Tonight I made them crawl in the eyes of everyone they had ever tried to impress. As we walked out the front door into the cold night, I heard my mother's voice breaking behind me. "Please don't go. Don't leave us like this." But I didn't look back. They wanted to humiliate me in front of my children. Now their entire kingdom of lies had crumbled in front of theirs. Christmas had been their triumph. New Year's was their funeral, and I was the one who lit the match. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.